Microplastics misinformation, there's a lot of it. Let's debunk 3 microplastic myths that you probably heard this week. So yeah, number 1, microplastics don't build up in your body. What? So microplastics don't bioaccumulate in the same way that like PFAS, the toxic forever chemical, or heavy metals like lead, like those would bioaccumulate, right? Microplastics don't do that. Microplastics may get lodged in different parts of your body, right? So if there's a particularly fatty area, a lot of the chemicals in plastic are actually lipophilic, meaning they're attracted to fat. Microplastics may be attracted to that area and then tend to clump up there, but they don't bioaccumulate in the same way that other harmful chemicals will. Also, if tissue in your body is damaged, microplastics may also get stuck there because it's damaged tissue. It doesn't have the same mechanisms to clear and like clear itself out in the way that healthy normal tissue would be. The problem with microplastics and why they're finding it in so many different parts of our body isn't necessarily because it's bioaccumulating there, but it's literally just because we ingest so many microplastics, the majority of which is polyethylene. Like it's not bioaccumulating, it just happens to be there when they find that tissue. FYI. Okay, cool. Number 2, big piece of misinformation I've seen recently is that you can donate blood and this is going to detox microplastics. No, I 2 different pieces of information here that are getting mixed up and neither of them is actually very accurate either. Okay. So number 1, there was a study showing that some double filtering technique in a German laboratory identified some microplastic particles that came out after they double filtered someone's blood, right? And there's also some ridiculously expensive like med spa in London charging like $12,000 for this kind of dialysis thing to filter your blood from microplastics. But again, as I covered in part 1, it doesn't build up, and we have natural ways that have been proven to detox microplastics, like get it out even faster. So it's really, really unnecessary to spend $12,000 to like donate blood to try and get out, or do dialysis to try and get out microplastics. Another thing is that they're also mixing up information from like 10 years ago showing that some Australian firefighters had lower amounts of PFAS, the toxic forever chemical, in their body, which is different than microplastics, right? Chemicals and plastic particles, those are different from one another. And yeah, number 3, really big headlines all over the place. Glass bottles have more microplastics than plastic bottles. I've done a few videos on this already. In this particular case, the plastic polymer-based paint that was on the outside caps of certain glass bottles had more microplastics than plastic bottles. However, there have been hundreds of studies showing exactly the opposite. And real association, the real thing that was increasing the amount of microplastics in beverages was the amount of processing before that beverage went into that bottle to begin with. It didn't matter whether it was plastic or glass or can, right? Beer, which was the most heavily processed item that they were testing, that had way more microplastics than any other substance, right? And then soda, iced tea, lemonade, all of those had more microplastics than water, right? Because they're more heavily processed. And so again, there was a glass bottles have always shown to have microplastics. I've talked about this in many videos from like 3 or 4 years ago. However, this is just the first study showing that the glass bottles in this particular case had more microplastics than those in plastic. However, again, the amount that beverage was processed was far more correlated versus what type of like cap it had, whether it was plastic or glass. There's so much microplastics misinformation out there. So let me know if there's any other information that you have questions about in the comments.